Good evening, everyone, and thank you all for joining me tonight when I have probably one of the best guests I've ever had on the show, James Dreyfus, renowned British comedian genius, and he's about to join us right now, so stand by.
Wait, Trev.
Hello, everyone, and thank you. Yes, he started off like a comedian, and that's what comedians do. James is I'm going to be honest right now, and I've never said this before, but I will be honest, and James will confirm this or deny this, but I have been trying to get James onto a chat with me probably for about 2 years. 2 years. But James,
Sorry, I had to knock Hobbs out.
It's okay, James. James, you know what? I'm so excited to be able to chat to you because I have followed your career and followed you for quite some time. I think I connected to you on social media probably 2 or 3 years ago.
You did.
And 2 or 3 years ago, I was trying to get you on for a chat. And the truth is, James, which I'm not trying to put people down or put people up, but ordinary people do not understand that when you're an actor, which you are, a comedian, producer, author, whenever you are involved in so many things, sometimes it's virtually impossible to get someone to commit to a chat because you've already signed away the next year in your life with projects.
You'd hope so, wouldn't you? I think it's just me being faffing around, really, and not being a bit flaky, and which I usually am, unless you pin me down.
Yeah,
not terribly reliable.
Oh, James, you're meant to big yourself up, not put yourself down.
No, I leave that to other people if they so choose to do it, Trevor.
Wow.
I always find it quite difficult. I've got in real trouble about that before, trying to sell programs and stuff, and people say to me, "Why didn't you say anything about?" And I said, "Because it always feels a bit awkward saying, by the way, watch me in this marvelous show. I'm terrific." I always think it sounds a bit wanky, if I can say that.
Say whatever you want, James. James, I've watched your career, and the truth is, you've been going for longer than I thought. Like most people, in the public domain and where I am, sit with people, we watch you do different TV shows, and for some reason we become we don't understand the hard work that it's involved in getting from where you are in your house to getting on the TV, and we tend to watch comedy shows and go, "Oh, that's awesome," or "That's not good," or "That's fantastic," but we don't realize that most comedians have spent 15, 20 years, sometimes 30 years trying to get to there. I've done loads of research on you. It's all good, but I love the career you've had, and I wasn't aware. I only know you from the British TV comedies that we see, and you were in Notting Hill as a librarian, but I didn't realize that you had actually been awarded a Laurence Olivier Award as far back as 1998.
Yeah. Well, I did most of my, I think most of my theatre acting was done in the 90s. So I did quite a lot of musicals, which is very strange for me because my voice compared to people who actually do musicals a lot of the time is, well, it's non-comparable, really. That's why they surround me with great singers and great dancers, hide the fact that I sort of Rex Harrison my way through it. But I did theatre for a long time. I started off at Harrogate Rep.
All right.
And then I did a lot at Birmingham Rep. And then did travelling tours, and then went to the National, and then eventually, and then did the TV stuff, and then went back for 3 years doing producers and cabaret and donkey's years in the West End. So it's sort of been quite varied. But of course, no one would never know because IMDb, which constantly gets things wrong and invents rubbish, doesn't put up your theatre career. So it often looks like you're a newcomer.
What What do you prefer doing though? Do you prefer theatre or do you prefer TV work, comedian? What?
Now,
Yeah.
um, now definitely TV and film. I did a film last year, and it's so much easier because you get to a stage in life where you're not quite as confident about going on stage and remembering your lines as you were when you were 20 something, when it's sort of second nature. So I do prefer television because you can get it wrong and then do it again without looking like an idiot.
Well, I love your show. I think, um, without trying to be ignorant, and I never want to be ignorant, but I remember watching you with my ex-wife. We used to sit down and watch you every. We were hooked. We were hooked on the Thin Blue Line. We thought it was fantastic. The storyline, your character. I think your character made it. However, everyone is obsessed with Ronan Keaton. Ronan Keaton, not Ronan Keaton, Ronan Atkinson. So
Yeah.
everyone, yeah. Can you believe I got Ronan Keaton mixed up with Ronan Atkinson? There we go.
It's
But
an easy mistake, Trevor. It's an easy mistake.
well, I think Ronan Atkinson's a better singer, but we used to watch it, and the show was based around Ronan Atkinson. But
Yeah,
in my heart of hearts, your character stole the show every week. It was just fab,
well,
and everyone remembers the show because of your character, not because
well,
of Rowan.
I think lots of people have different views on that. I think you get a show like that, it's like a sort of Dad's Army where everyone has a favourite. You know, my particular joy is the Arthur Lowe, John LeMessurier stuff between them. My favourite character in it, along with Rowan, is Grimm, David Haig, who you know hates life, has a rotten life, and just wants everyone else to have an equally rotten life. But I was the sort of the cartoon character in it, the very silly, innocent thing. But what I slightly didn't quite realise at the time is, because I kind of based it on Frank Spencer from Some Mothers to Have Them.
I read that. Yeah, I read that.
Yeah, and I thought, you know, well, people, you know, okay, he moves around a lot and he's a bit camp and a bit silly. But when people started saying the gay policeman, I was thinking, which gay policeman? Which one? There isn't one in this. And I was thinking, oh, they're talking about me. No, because I don't equate camp with being gay. I know plenty of gay people who aren't camp, but he was in love with Habib. I think he was more worried about his mum finding out.
I watched it, and you know that photograph is everywhere of you in your uniform and the police officer. But I don't think it was about people. In my opinion, by the way, it wasn't about you being a gay police officer. It was about you coming across as very camp as a police officer, which we all loved. We all thought, wow, this is awesome. So your character was so lovable. It was like a police officer in a station, but he didn't think he was a police officer. He came across as like a secretary, like, I have no idea. And that's what people loved about it.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, he's a sort of, he's the innocent one. He's the, you know, people always like the stupid ones. I mean, he's rather, I would say that he's the equivalent to sort of Pike in Dad's Army, you know,
yes,
the young, naive one. So and also it was a lot of sort of physical comedy and you know, but you see, for me, the whole joy about it was, you know, working with one of my, as it is with most of my jobs, is working with my comedy heroes. And Rowan Atkinson, I grew up on. I was obsessed with Not the Lion's Got News. I was obsessed with him. I was obsessed with everything he did. And so that was the real joy for me.
Have you stayed in touch with Ronan through the years?
Well, I mean, no, I mean, I don't call him up and say, hi, Ro. But if I bump into him and everything, we talk and chat. And, you know, he's a far busier man than I, and far, you know, got his own thing going on. But no, and you don't tend to do that anyway with things, you know. But I've often bumped into him. I first met him at a fancy dress party, and we were both standing against the wall. He was dressed as one of the Adams family, Gomez or something, standing there, and I was dressed as Robespierre, and we were both slightly shy, so we both started talking to each other. And then when I went for the audition, he said, "Oh yes, we had that chat in at that party." And I said, yes, we did. We did. So, you know, you bump into them and you say hi and thing, but, you know, he's such a hero of mine that, you know,
Yeah.
I'd never dare call him up and say, hi, how you doing? Come and have a drink down my local.
Well, do you know what? I've noticed this in such a short conversation, that you tend to sort of play down your role and you big up other people's roles, which is very endearing in a way, if I'm honest. But to everyone watching here, I mean, I'm getting loads of messages coming in now going, I loved him in Thin Blue Line. He made the show. He made the show. I loved him. Gimme, gimme, gimme. I loved him. Notting Hill. So there's loads of messages coming up, which unfortunately you can't see, but I can see them coming up. And everyone's saying that you're better than Mr. Bean.
Oh, well, no, you see, that's very sweet, but I'm in no way comparable to the genius of Rowan Atkinson. No way at all. Listen, the part was written by Ben Elton, and he created a fantastic part for me. And all I had to do was be as silly as I can. And sometimes Ben would turn around to me and say, yeah, a bit less, just a bit less.
Well, James, to be fair, how did Rowan Atkinson feel when you won the Best Comedy Award in 1996 and he didn't?
Well, no, I won the Best Comedy Newcomer. So
sorry,
he wouldn't have been up for that. I think
all right, okay,
he would have won.
Sorry.
They were all delighted, and we think that my one, I didn't think I was going to get it, and I made the crucial rookie mistake of not writing a proper speech. So I convinced myself, don't bother. And then when I went up there, I was so shaken that I forgot to thank Ben Elton, which was just appalling and abysmal and embarrassing. And I had to follow David Seaman was giving me the award, so everyone was busy cheering David Seaman, thinking, who's the thin skinny bloke that's taking an award off him?
Well,
but,
yeah. To be fair though, whenever you go up there to get an award, most of the time it comes as a shock. Even though you've probably got a speech prepared in your head, sometimes the situation overwhelms you and you do forget that the most important things at the time may slip your mind. So you should be forgiven for that.
That is true. I did make heavy apologies to Ben. I mean, I did say, you know, because he said, you forgot me. And I said, oh, I know, I'm so sorry. It was awful. It was really awful. But I feel this. I have made up for it over the years by consistently telling the story and making sure that everyone knows that it wasn't done on purpose.
One of the questions I've got to ask is, right, okay, so I've got loads of questions in my head, by the way. I've got loads. But one of the things is, you went from comedy and TV. Did you ever, I don't know if you've ever been asked this before, but did you ever think about having a go at stand-up? Is that not your thing? No?
I could never do what stand-ups do. I could do, if you remember, there was a film called of the Amnesty stage show, The Secret Policeman's Ball, and then they did The Secret Policeman's Other Ball, and I could play characters like Rowan does, and like that kind of stand-up. But talking by myself to a room, I could only really do that as somebody else. I'm not sure I could do it as myself. And it's also, I think, one of the bravest, that and understudies, I think, are the two bravest things you can do, because you're by yourself, it's your material. And if it tanks, you tank. Whereas if you're in a play, you can always say, well, you know, I mean, George Bernard Shaw, not that great a writer. Of course, it wasn't going to work. So you can always blame somebody else, but you can't do that when you're a stand-up.
But
so
when I look at you, I see that you could possibly bounce off someone. You get on very well with Kathy Burke, actually. So you and Kathy Burke would bounce off each other a bit like. Do you remember the old days? You had a. I remember this, and I thought they were brilliant. Hale and Pace.
Oh, I do remember Hale and Pace. Yes, I do.
Yeah.
Yes,
So
yes.
I think Burke and Dreyfus would be just as popular.
I think Kathy doesn't do acting anymore. Although I have to say that when we did Gimme, we'd done a play together before, you see. Which is
yes, I know. I was going to talk to you about that. Yeah, brilliant.
And we discovered that actually we understood how each other worked very, very. And I'd been a huge Kathy Burke fan, so again, I was a bit. And in rehearsals, we sort of got together because of us having cigarettes and going off to the corner and not learning our lines and stuff. And then when we were doing Gimme, 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 always knew what she was going to do, and she always knew what I was going to do. So it's very rare to get a situation like that, very rare. So she's one of the very few that I just think, whatever she does, I can go with. Whereas some actors will kind of block you in a way.
Yeah.
You know, if you're playing a king on stage, you can be as kingly as you like, but if the people around you aren't acting subserviently, you're not a king. So it very much depends on how people react to you. And of course, Kathy gives much more than many actors I've worked with. So it was a delight to actually do it. And I don't like doing recordings in front of studio audiences, but actually it was a real joy to do it with her.
I enjoyed it. I think I've watched every episode. Every I think I was. Do you know what? And you know what? I'm a ginger, clearly, but watching her as a ginger woman, she really not only embraced it, engrossed it, but she made fun out of it, but she did it in such light humor. I just love it. And you know what? I'd like to point this out to everyone watching right now, which there's hundreds of people watching right now. I'd like to point it out that we're the only race which aren't protected.
That's true. I think she did marvels for the ginger community. Marvels for it. You know, but both of them, I think both of those characters did marvels in their own way, even though they were the vilest people on earth. They both did marvels for gay people, ginger people, actors, whatever she did. It was silly escapism, and it's great to do that, because that's what television's for. A large part of it, okay, some of it's education, but some of it you should be able to watch. That's why I can't watch television today, because I can't look at it apart from Ricky Gervais's Afterlife, which I can't watch and escape. Everything is so too real at the moment, and I think we need something like Gimme, Gimme, Gimme back, where you can go and you can laugh.
James, that was one of my questions to you, because you're a comedian. I'm not technically. I'm an actor. I'm not really a comedian. You're an actor. You're an actor that makes us all laugh, and there's very few of them these days, actually, that make us laugh. Even some of the old comedians have went a little bit wookish. But the one thing that I never realized. I mean, people watching this will say, "Oh, I remember James. He was a librarian in Notting Hill. Oh, I remember James. He was in the Thin Blue Line," or "I remember James. He was in Gimme, Gimme, Gimme." But no one thinks of a program which no one knows about, by the way, apart from, in fact, hopefully some people know about it. But I would watch this with my son. You were in Agent Cody.
Yes, I was. Yes,
I know,
I was in
and
Agent
that came across as a shock when I'm watching TV with my boy.
Yes, I was in it. I was there. That was that was a great shoot, actually, because I was with Keith Allen for most of the time. So he's a fantastic guy, and we had a bonkers time. And of course, it was directed by his brother, so that was great fun. But yes, I hadn't quite realised how successful Cody Banks was. So the first day I arrived, I was like, "Which one's Cody? Who's Cody?" And eventually they said, "It's this guy," and it's this teenager, and I went,
a little kid.
Yeah. And I didn't realize.
But see, whenever everyone sees you as the comedian who's done like 3 or 4 shows, but nobody realizes that in order to get the 3 or 4 successful shows, you've got to work, like every career, you've got to work your way up. You also did Will o' the Wisp, Holby City, and stuff like that. I mean, whenever I was going through the stuff that you've been involved in, I gave up, because I was going, writing it down. I got to about 30 or 40 different things you've been involved in. I thought, Jesus Christ, this guy's been in everything.
Well,
yes.
That's what being an actor is all about. I mean, is taking the jobs when they come, and it doesn't matter what it is, or there's you can't be snobby about things, and there's no reason to be snobby. I mean, soap actors are the hardest working bunch of people you'll ever come across. So anyone who sort of turns their nose up and says, oh, I don't want to do that. It's beneath me. I just think, no, I mean, God, everyone needs to earn a living. I'll take jobs when they come my way, because believe it or not, usually when actors say, well, I decided to do this job because, you'll actually find they decided to do it because there was nothing else to offer to them. So,
You did.
Because offers come very, very infrequently.
I'm in awe of the amount of things you've done. I connected with you only a couple of years ago, and I knew of about, if I'm honest, I think I knew of about eight shows you were in. Then he's been involved in 8 shows. I know these 8 shows, but I didn't realize, like most people, because we're a little bit naive, that in order to get the 8 shows, you've got to put your work in to get your career up. And there's one show actually, which I'm really makes me laugh when I say it, but you took over from someone that I like. He's a comedian, an Irish comedian. You took over from him. You know what I'm talking about. You took that show to a different height. And you were the show's messed up.
That's
mentally.
That's splitting opinions, actually, because I got quite a lot of grief for that. But I said, I mean, the casts were fantastic and everything, but I just feel there had been too many series for anyone to accept me as
my hero.
George. I think Ardle had established that role. It was his role, and I kind of feel now that perhaps they shouldn't have done the extra series, and perhaps I should have said no. But again, at that time, I needed to pay, a tax bill, and I took it on for reasons of my own. But I don't think it was something I should have done, because it was so much Ardle. So his. It's very difficult.
My hero was embedded with Ardle and his wife. Of course it was. But he moved on. They wanted someone to fulfill it. They got someone, and it was fantastic. And then they got so pissed off with you that they stuck you in Casualty.
Yes, they did. They broke my arms, threw me out. I did Casualty, Holby City. What else? Midsummer Murders. Lots of the shows that you'll see, around, which is good, because they're fun, and you also get to meet lots of other actors, and you get to guest star, and it's fun because you're constantly doing different things.
Well, mate, I've loved watching your career. Now, here's a question for you, which I hadn't planned, but because I'm a little bit mental anyway, I think in my feet. I do. Everyone knows
I'm club. Join the club, Trev.
But I think in my feet, James, I try and get. So when I ask you something, it's from the heart. It's honest. I don't make it up. But in a time now where everything's so serious and everyone's being cancelled and the news is so depressive, why aren't we embracing comedy and putting out comedy to cheer everyone up? Why is there not enough comedy right now when we all need it?
Because unfortunately we're in a situation now where the word has become meaningless now, but for want of a better word, woke people are very worried about an online reaction to anything controversial. So, I mean, I'm afraid that you just have to put it down to corporate cowardness, because it's astonishing to me that at a time when everyone is going through bloody awful times, and with the world, and we've just had 2 years of lockdown, and it seems to have changed everything. There's this idea that if 2 people complain, that represents the entire nation. Well, of course it doesn't. What the grown-ups in the room should start doing is saying, if you don't like it, turn it over. You've got 800 different channels that you can watch. You don't, but there are these petitions and things going on. And the power of the internet is, of course, which is the social media is an experiment that they tried, and it failed, and used a whole generation as guinea pigs. And now you've got a lot of people who don't understand the word no, or actually, yes, we quite like this. Well, it offends me. For example, Roy Chubby Brown. Doesn't matter what you think about his humour. The theatre booked him, people who liked him paid to go and see him, and then they cancelled it because a few people complained.
Well,
this is where we are.
James, I'm 48 in April, but my father loves Roy Chubby Brown.
Yeah.
And my mother hated him. So, and you know what? It used to be where he would wait till my mum go to bed to put his videos.
This is the point. But that's the point, Trevor. I mean, that's the point. Your mum didn't watch it. Why? Because she didn't like it.
Yeah.
She wouldn't go and see it. Your dad did. But now we've got a group of people who think it's their God-given right that because they don't like it, you shouldn't like it. I find today's a very dog-in-the-manger attitude. You know, if I can't enjoy it, you can't enjoy it either. And it's a slippery slope because one thing sets a precedent and it goes downhill from there. And I'm afraid we're right.
I enjoy comedy. Even if it's not for me, I'll give it a go. I mean, truthfully, I'll happily... Today, comedians are either each side of the fence. Some are very, very funny, like the likes of Peter Kay, who never upsets anyone, but he makes the comedy funny. But on the flip side, you've got Dave Chappelle and Ricky Gervais, which are exactly the same but different colors, and their comedy's based on right on the edge comedy where it could be classed as anything. But I love comedians at all comedians. I think, you know what, they're out there on the stage. They know for a fact that someone in the audience probably hates what they're about to say, but they'll go with it, they'll run with it. And if someone jumps on the stage like Will Smith, they know they're going to get a smack in the mouth.
Right. Yep. Keep my wife's name. Yeah. Well, the thing about Ricky Gervais, which is because he is my comedy hero, because he's very clever, because he's invented a character that's on a blade. So you get the real Ricky Gervais, and then you get the Ricky Gervais who takes the piss. But they're so closely connected that it's very difficult to separate them apart. So he'll say, for example, seeing his last show, you know, I'm the most oppressed minority in this room. I'm a white billionaire. So, you know, and everyone will laugh. So, but he plays a very clever trick, because you always think to yourself, well, is that him? Or is that the very clever side of him? Yeah. And he manages to be observational and make jokes about people. And of course, you wouldn't go to, why would you go and see Ricky Gervais unless you knew this is what was coming? If you only enjoy woke comedy, then you'd go and you'd watch a woke comedian and you wouldn't get offended and you'd laugh because, you know, it's all the same and there's nothing dangerous about it. I mean, but there are wonderful young comedians. He'll love me for saying that, like Jonathan Pye, who invented that. You know, I went to see his stage show, and that was extraordinary. Andrew Doyle's show was extraordinary as well. I mean, I think at the moment you've got to really go out on a limb and be brave, and you will get cancelled. I have no doubt about it. If you can cancel Jerry Sadowitz, you can cancel anybody. I personally, cancel culture doesn't exist. Are living in a dream world. I personally believe, heart of hearts, I believe that you could sell out any stadium. I believe you're better than Jonathan Pye. Oh no! You see, that's my opinion, though, James. I wouldn't say better. I wouldn't say better. I would say mine would be very different, because Jonathan knows intricacies about politics. Oh, he's funny. He's a very funny, very talented actor, and he's playing a character. Of course he is. Yeah, he's good at it. And he's brilliant, because some people have no idea that he's a character, because his rants are so on the money. So I just don't know about me doing stand up. I mean, if I did, I'd probably do it as some form of, it would look like a lecture, and it would be highly, not sarcastic, but dry, should we say. I'm a little bit stunned tonight that you're chatting here for so long, so far, nearly half an hour, and your dog hasn't made a surprise appearance. Well, you see, there's a reason for that. That's why I had to run out quickly. He's downstairs being occupied with the pig's ear. So, Yeah.
I've got my
Otherwise,
dog's lying asleep on the carpet in front of me here.
well, I think you've got a very well-behaved dog. Hobbs, as you might have gleaned from my Twitter feed, doesn't
Well,
really care what other people do.
my dog's had magic mushrooms. It's running around the kitchen, and it
Oh
just
my
felt.
lord!
I'm
Oh
joking.
my lord!
Oh, Jesus Christ! I'm sorry. This was a joke, by the way. If anyone's recording this was a joke. So it's very hard to ask an actor a question to a certain degree, because whenever you speak to someone who's in employment, which job can go forever in their life and until they pass away, you don't want to put actors on the spot by saying who was the best actress or actor, because sometimes I believe it's not a good question for a start, because you're putting someone on the spot. But if you could get an opportunity in your next role to work with somebody, who's on your list to work with?
Oh God! Why did you ask me that? Why? Okay, I'll tell you who. I'm just going to pluck. I'd love to work with Ricky Gervais, but I would also love to work with Jennifer Coolidge.
Okay, yeah.
Who I've long been a fan of, and only now people are beginning to wake up to how brilliant she is and how hilarious she is. I'd say let's say Jennifer Coolidge.
Okay. I think Ricky Gervais is such a I nearly said big ego. I didn't mean that. I meant he's such a big platform. He's got a big presence around him that lots of comedians want to work with him. But
look who he employs. He doesn't tend to do that big people thing. He employs.
I heard something, James.
Yeah.
I heard something, James, from a friend of mine.
Yeah.
I'm not connected to anyone. I'm not. I know people that are great people that sometimes give me a little bit of information, and I never say who they are. But a friend of mine that has actually worked with Ricky Gervais said that Ricky Gervais sometimes hires homeless people to give them a job to get them off the street.
Wouldn't surprise me. He's a philanthropist as well, which a lot of people don't know because he doesn't brag about it. But he does a hell of a lot of work for animals. He does a hell of a lot of work for the homeless. It's like J.K. Rowling. She does the same thing, and
Well, yeah,
and a lot of people don't know.
I admire people that help others. I really do. I think they're fantastic people. Yeah. And over the last couple of months, probably as far back as maybe 5 or 6 months, I shouldn't really, but I felt sorry a little bit for J.K. Rowling, because she has given so many people opportunities, and she's done so much to help people, that she's become a target of hatred, and I don't like that. But at the end of the day,
it's disgraceful.
If you've lifted people
disgraceful.
Up, I'm not going to go into.
She has never said anything that she is being accused of. Everything that she is being accused of. Not one person since this started has been able to provide any evidence. Now, I know Jo, and I can tell you categorically that she is no transphobe. She's written a very clear essay about this. She is pro women's rights.
Yes,
that's what she's arguing for. And to be honest with you, this is the whole reason why I got cancelled in the first place, because I signed a letter to the Times with other people in support of her and against the vile messages that she receives daily. And let me tell you, I've seen these messages, and you wouldn't wish these upon your worst enemy, the things that I've read. And that was the reason. It was association. I was then dropped by Big Finish as my role in The Master for their audio series of Doctor Who, because I don't know, transphobia, because I supported J.K. Rowling, and I will always support J.K. Rowling because I know what she's like.
I think. Well, do you know what, James? I take my hat off to you, because you know what, you've been through the mill. You're an established actor. What people don't realize is we all have morals. This is about moral, not only physical. Sorry, this is about moral courage, and it's by saying the right thing for the right time. It's not about following the trend, and that's why I really do admire you for your stance. And I fucking don't just admire you. I'm standing behind you, waiting to punch people in the face, because I admire you, and I I will always stand by people that I think have got good hearts and good morals, and they do the right thing. The one thing that in my head, sort of, because I've got severe PTSD and I deal with it every day. And as you've seen the attacks leading up to this conversation, I've been attacked non-stop on Twitter, as you've probably seen. And you were tagged into a lot of things to do with me. And I've read them and I don't react anymore. I used to get wound up and go, how dare you, you fucker. Now I just go, you know what? If that's what you want to say about me, then I'm not going to do it. And in fact, I believe, before I get to my point, I believe one of the tweets which you were tagged into, which upset me, was Trevor thinks all gays have AIDS. I hope that James realizes this. And there was all these different conversations about me. And I sat back and read them and I went, they are vile. I mean,
they were vile.
They are vile. And do you know what? All I can say is I apologize, but I've got as much haters out there as anyone else, and they will make stuff up. And sometimes it hurts me a little bit emotionally to read this shit, but I deal with it daily, James, and I'm sure you do. But my point is, my point is, J.K. Rowling started off from nothing in a flat. She is now a world-renowned, fantastic bestseller. I think she's got to through hard work and dedication through everything to get there. Her stories are amazing. But the actors that she took from day one and put in her movies and made them multi-millionaires and global stars are now the most despicable people on the planet, because they will not stand by her and stick in her corner after what she's done for them. And I find that to be completely outrageous and terrible.
I do. I mean, I totally agree with you, but I also think the blame, a large part of the blame has to go to their advisors, who will say to them, you better say this if you want a career. So if you've noticed, the older established actors know what's going on, like Ralph Fiennes and Helena Bonham Carter, Robbie Coltrane, all said exactly the same thing, that they found it despicable. But the young ones are all being told, listen, you know, you start on this, you're going to end up down the pan. Now, the point behind this is, if they're saying that to you, you know that the movement which is attacking is an extremely aggressive one that people are afraid of. Why? Because they will try and get you fired from everything. So, okay, they can't be excused anymore because they're not children. But when people say they would have had a career anyway, how would you possibly know that? They were taken as children, personally handpicked by J.K. Rowling. And I'm a bit like you, Trevor, in this, of thinking, you know something, I'd stand by my maker if the chips were down. And it's extremely disappointing to see that not happening.
Well, James, we've got the same mindset, and you know what? It doesn't mean we don't like a certain subject. I'm quite open to every subject, but I've been brought up. I was brought up in a housing estate in Dundonald and Ballybean in Northern Ireland. My mother was ex-soldier. My father was ex-soldier, prison officer. I used to play out from 8 o'clock in the morning to fucking nearly midnight and come back covered in shit, making sales down. There was a time I would stay up just in time for the milkman so I could go around houses and steal orange juice. So I did all the things that we think that kids do. I did it. And now I'm a parent, and would I let my son do that? No, because I fear by the way, where I live is beautiful. So I'm not going to say about my neighborhood. So where I live, I would let my son do whatever he wants around here, because I live in a safe environment. Everyone knows each other. I live in a village. I'm not going to say what it's called, but I live in a village and everyone looks after each other. But if I was in a housing estate where I grew up, I couldn't do it now, because I don't understand today's society and how they move. And I can't understand. I remember my dad was English. We lived in a housing estate in Northern Ireland called Ballybean. My dad would shout out the back, stand in the garden and shout, he's from Hull, North Yorkshire, by the way, Trevor! And everyone would hear it. I wouldn't hear it, but people would pass it to me. Your dad called you. You need to get home. But today, no one cares. I mean,
Mm.
we've lost that. We've lost that caring for each other, I think, James.
Yeah, I mean, yes, I know. I mean, again, Trev, I mean, I blame 95% of it on this thing we're using now. This computer thing. I mean, we've all been pushed onto it, whether we like it or not now. So I feel you can rail against it because we're all forced to do it. Now, I don't want to have a phone. I do not want to have. I mean, if a phone was just a mobile phone, fine, but it's not. It's a walking computer filled with misinformation, lies. It's a thing for bullying for children who are being bullied at school. It goes on into the holidays. Why? Because everyone carries this bloody computer around.
Well, James, it is now.
And I just think that has led to a massive, massive disintegration. I mean, like I said before, I think it's an experiment that's gone horribly wrong, and guinea pigs with kids, and they are paying the price, and it's just wretched.
James, I might have the year wrong, but I'm gonna roll with the story, the true story. I might have the year wrong. I remember coming back. I lived in England basically when I grew up. I left Northern Ireland. I moved to England. I went through military training. I lived in England. I went to Cyprus. In fact, that prick, by the way, if he's watching, that prick from the recruiting centre said to me, "Oh, if you join the Royal Irish Regiment, they're in Cyprus. You can go paddleboarding and jet skiing all day. It's brilliant." And I went, "Oh, really? I'll join that regiment then. That looks like fun." And then I got to Cyprus, and I was there for 6 weeks. And they went, "We're packing up. We've been here for 5 years. We're heading to Catterick, North Yorkshire." So they took the piss out of me in a way. I was manipulated to join that regiment, James, but which I never really got over, as you can tell. But whenever I joined the military, I remember buying my first mobile phone. I remember, fuck me, that's sad. But I remember buying my first phone because none of my friends in Old Ireland had a mobile phone.
Yeah.
So I bought this phone, James, and I shit you not, it was the size. It was definitely that size. It was square. It had an antenna that didn't flap out. In fact, you had to pull the antenna out the top. And I remember having that phone in my hand, thinking, "Do you know the phone that Del Boy uses to notify the horses?"
Yes, I remember
that.
those.
Was my first mobile, James.
Yeah.
But I used to hide it in my inside. It wasn't a fucking mobile. You couldn't hide it in your jean pocket. You had to hide it in the inside pocket of your coat. And I remember bringing it out and going, thinking I was cool. Antenna. You'd phone up. You'd go through. You didn't just phone straight home, though. You had to go through a call center to get home. "Hello, Mom? Yep." How cool is that, James?
Yeah,
someone
listen, up. You weren't alone. It's like holding a brick to your head, and you cannot look cool with a brick to your head.
No.
You look like a moron. But listen, I mean, I know people say it's technology and everything we would advance and everything, but I just think to myself, just because you can doesn't mean you should. That's fine.
I would make a phone call and go, "Mother, yes. Can you stick on the Commodore 64 now so it's loaded by the time I get home?"
yeah. You just get my Atari warmed up.
I know. Wow. So, James, tell me this then. What do you want to achieve now? What is your goal? More movies? More TVs?
Something? No, I'm going to concentrate more on writing now, I think. Because I'm kind of not too interested in doing plays or films or everything if they have to adhere to these new rules of
James,
you can't say this and you can't do that. So
I fear,
what?
Or should I say not fear? The word the wrong. It begins with F, but it's not fear. I feel that you're possibly turning into a Ben Elton when it comes to writing.
Well, I mean, I was actually going to talk about something. I was actually going to write non-fiction. It's either that or horror pulp novels.
Okay.
Those are my two choices. But because Ben writes fiction now, very successful novelist. I don't think I'd do that. I think I'd do more like a sort of those Kenneth Williams or those John Waters books where each chapter is different and they talk about a different subject, and it's part memoir, part stories, part theories, part opinion. So I think that's what I'm going to do next. But it's going to take a while, obviously, because I'm bone idle. So we'll see.
Are you happy though? Are you happy right now? Are you happy with what's going to happen in your life? Are you happy, or do you want to achieve more?
I'm no, I wouldn't say happy, because
Contented.
No, I wouldn't say contented either. I would say I'm more content. I'm more content moving away from London, but I'm very annoyed at having to re-enter a debate I thought we'd settled a long time ago, i.e., women's rights, gay rights, and all that I have been part of for a while. And I think we are regressing, and I cannot believe that women are being forced to defend their hard-won spaces, sports, etc., etc., all over again. And I don't think anyone's pleased about it. Nobody wants a war. Nobody wants this fight.
I agree.
But so I'm not actually content. I'm a bit peed off at having to do this all over again.
If you could move out of London, where would you like to move to?
I moved.
Oh, where are you?
I moved. I'm in the countryside.
Well, let's not talk about your address. We don't want to give lunatics. That wouldn't be good, would it?
No, but I can tell you this, Trevor. I've got the best neighbours in the world because I live opposite a gravesite. So they're very quiet, very respectful.
So your neighbours are all dead.
My neighbours are all dead, and I live opposite a church. So this morning I was woken up to the sound of church bells, and it's lovely. It's really, really lovely. And so I'm content with that side.
Well, James, I think you need to start worrying, my friend, because when the zombie apocalypse comes, you're the first house they're going to take.
Yeah, I know. But don't think I haven't thought about that. I already thought, now where will I get the wood to board up the wood? I know. I'll use the floorboards from upstairs.
So you need to spend all your money, what you've got left, on a underground cellar with many, many metal spikes and crosses.
Yes. And I've watched enough movies. I've got it down pat, Trevor. I can do this in about 2 hours. Get it all set up in 2 hours.
Oh God! Here, I've just been reading, and someone said in the comments, "Faulty Towers is on its way back to screens." Apparently, Faulty Towers.
It is. Listen, it's John Cleese. Again, one of my comedy heroes.
Would you not? You with a fake tan. No offense, but with a fake tan,
do my well.
Yes.
Yeah, I'd get in so much trouble. But I'm not sure how he's setting it or how he's doing it. But it's John Cleese, and I wish my God, we're lucky to have John Cleese. We're lucky to have had him since the early '60s, late '50s, early '60s. I mean, the man's a legend. So. I don't know what he's going to do with it. Neither does anybody else. So I'm not rushing to judgment about it. I'm going to wait to see. But you're right. I enjoy him in everything. So
he's a great actor. He hasn't went woke. He sticks by his principles, and that's why I like him. I used to go to a place. I won't say exactly where, but I used to go to a place down south of England to visit a friend, and my friend's friend was Nicholas Lyndhurst, and he is a. I never knew this though, but Nicholas Lyndhurst he's a dedicated animal fan. He supported the owl sanctuaries and different sanctuaries, and he you never hear this in the news, but Nicholas gives a lot of his time and a lot of his funds to looking after animals, and you never hear about it, and you never hear about the good that actors do. You only hear about things like James Dreyfus in the news. He shagged this woman who was a cocaine addict. That's false, by the way. But you never hear these news about how good actors are doing and what they give back to society. You never hear about things that, I made a mistake there and he took a photograph. It's quite shit how the media works.
Well, yeah, I mean, and 'twas ever thus, frankly, Trevor, as you know. I mean, they take great delight in building you up, and then even greater delight in dragging you down. I mean, you can see it with, I mean, everybody who has fame or a touch of fame goes through it. Everybody does it. It's a game that you have to willingly play. If you decide to use the media then say, well, then you're fair game. If you don't decide to use the media, you're not really fair game, but it's, hey, papers sell. So, you know, I mean, it's always been like that. It probably always will. You never hear about the good things. That's what I miss about the old news, when they'd say, and now, after giving you, 10 minutes of utter tragedy and awfulness, they'd go, and now good news. Badger in Gloucestershire was rescued by Mrs. and they'd give you a good news story at the end. And
do you remember that though?
I do, very much indeed.
I used to like, this is sad, but whenever I was growing up as a young lad growing up, the news is exactly how you explained it. You would have a load of shit stories, and then it would be, but on the upside, Perky the Penguin today swam 2 meters. It always ended up with fun. And now, whenever I think of those stories, I think of Anchorman Will Ferrell in this movie.
Oh, yes.
He tried to sort of bring that back in his movie, which people laughed at. But his stories were based on sort of like real life things. But today we just have, I'm going to be honest, I haven't watched the news probably in a couple of years.
Right.
I used to watch Good Morning Britain when Piers was on.
Right.
This is true. He's been gone a while. But I don't like Piers that much. Don't get me wrong. I want to make this quite clear to people watching. I respect his opinion. I think he made the news. He made it exciting, even though sometimes he was good or bad. I'm not saying he's bad. I'm just saying I used to love watching his sort of interactions because he would wind people up right to the edge. Yes. And I enjoyed it. And he had me on one day in this news and we had a chat. But then I came off that. Me and Piers got on like that for about 2 years until one day I had an argument with Piers online and then he blocked me. That's what people do.
Yes.
But I still respect his opinion. I'm not lying. I do. I think he's entitled to it. He's done all right. But I used to watch the news and then it went from being good and then it used to end you with a bit of a lift. And then now it's just all negative. And that's why I don't watch it anymore.
Yes. I must say, I'm with you. I don't watch it either. I mean, when I'm talking about that, I'm talking about I used to live in Devon. There used to be this program called Nationwide. And it was done by someone Bassett, I think, Mr. Bassett. Anyway, he was the sort of voice of Devon and the southwest. And I always remember because the news as kids, oh god, you got to sit to the news, you got to sit to this. But I do remember it always ending on a thing. And now they do sort of try it, but it still always has a sort of political edge to it now.
Yeah.
Whereas I wish. I want to go back to the days of Moira Stewart and Trevor McDonald,
they were good,
who were so brilliant, and they would tell the news, and you couldn't tell from what their face was doing their opinion. Now they're all like, "And we've got news for you," and you can see they're giving their opinion whilst reading what they do on the double act. And I just think I don't want to know your opinion. I'm not interested. I'm here to listen to the impartial news. So I miss those days. All the days.
They were great.
Sandy Gall and Peter Sissons and all.
Do you remember this one though? Do you remember this one? Right now, I'm standing on the landing in the house of Fred West and Marie West. It is all going down right now. This is Kate. This is Kate 80 ITN.
Of course, Kate 80 is one of the great. I'll tell you a quick story about. I was with a friend at a party once, and we bumped into Kate 80, and we were all sitting on the grass. We'd all had far too much champagne, and we were sitting on the grass, and we had about an hour's chat with Kate 80. One of the most fascinating people you'll ever come across. And we were saying, and I was sort of saying, I couldn't believe I was with Kate. So I kept saying, so tell me about that story about thing, and she'd go, well, we got to know so much. about her, and she's a fascinating one. But those kind of people aren't. I'm sure they're around because there are still great reporters around.
There is.
But it's that sort of impartiality that I miss. I find it patronising because we can make our own minds up as people of this country, and we're being sort of lectured now and told.
James, I was with a I won't mention her name because that would be the wrong thing to do. I'm not going to do that. But I was with a very, very famous news reporter who understands Afghanistan. She was an expert in the Afghanistan culture. She understood the language, Kurdish and stuff, different language. She was awesome, and I had her on a pedestal. I still do have her on a pedestal. I'm not gonna lie. She's a fantastic woman. But I was involved in an ambush in a place called Zumbale. Sounds awful. Sorry, lad. Zumbale. And I remember we went out there to do like a Hearts and Minds campaign where you go there and you have thousands of dollars in money and you have everything, food, you can give everything out. And you turn up and you walk in, you do like a shura. You bring in the village elders to speak to the elders, you have a chat with them. We want you to work with us as NATO or whatever it was. And we will offer you, you need a well? We can dig that tomorrow. What do you want? $10,000? Boom. There you go, in your hand. But we want you, what do you want? You want this dug? We can bring tractors in and dig this away. And we offered them everything. And they were like, wow, they shook our hands. we gave away, I think we gave away $60,000 in about 10 seconds to this. Yeah. This was an integral village, which was right in the middle between allies and the Taliban.
Right.
We needed this village. This village could give us so much insight into the evil side of terrorism.
Right.
So we give them everything. But on the way, when we were walking out, this woman was with us. This woman was an Afghanistan hero. Anyway, I still love her to today. But as we walked in, she was speaking to the females. She wanted to know why the females weren't there. Why are females being suppressed? She was there to find out what she needed to find out. As we walked out, machine gun fire. We're under fire. Rockets, RPG fire. Holy shit. We're on the floor now. We're on the deck. We're all like, what the fuck's going on? Our guys are firing 50 cals in, hitting positions. We've got air coming in, dropping rockets. We're like, what the hell's going on? We moved our way out. I turned to her. I says, get up. She looked at me with a red face. And I went, are you okay? And she went, yeah. I said, get up, let's move. She went, I can't. I said, why? I pissed myself. I said, don't worry about it. So have I. Let's go. Let's go. Boom. Straight out.
Oh, good for you. Good for you.
But her bladder went, and the way I got around it was saying, so have I. Let's just go. And I got her up and we moved out and we kept an eye on her. She's a best-selling author. I'm not going to mention her name. It would be not nice. No. But she's a fantastic woman. But she went, I pissed myself. She was nervous. I pissed myself.
Yeah, of course. Of course.
I went, but
you made her feel better. I mean, you didn't, you took away her embarrassment in a second.
Okay, so let's just keep going. Let's just get out of here.
Absolutely.
But it's the way you do. Sometimes if you stop and you pause, if you think about things like that too much, you can destroy someone's confidence.
Yes, absolutely.
If you go with it, and go, fuck it, so am I. Let's just keep going. You lift them up, their spirits are right, and you move forward with them. And I think that's the best way to move. I still, believe it or not, I'm still in contact with that lady today.
Oh, wonderful.
I respect her so much because she didn't have to go there.
Yeah.
She chose to put herself in danger in order to try and lift the spirits of the Afghan women. And that's something that I would always applaud.
That's amazing. That was an extremely kind move of you because a lot of people might not have done that. And I'm sure she will always remember that, Trevor.
She still speaks to me. I can't show you. I can't show you. She sends me her books and she signs them to me, and she's a nice lady. But I don't want to put her on the spot. But
no.
There's a lot of people that I so much respect, and it's sometimes if I was now thing is now that's fucked me up, James, because I can never show those books. People go, ha, that's the moment to piss yourself. So I have to watch my move next.
No, you can't. But again, that's a I mean that story says a lot about you. Trevor, and like you say, we've watched each other over the years on online and spoken, you know, intermittently via DMs and stuff. And I'd personally like to say thank you for everything you have done. Thank you for your service, is what basically I'm saying. And you know, I'm glad that you're in a better place now than you were. And like you say, you would tend to ignore them now and just get on with it. And I wish I could do that more often and do it with the grace that you do it.
Well, James, we've been chatting for over an hour now, and everyone keeps saying,
I know. I've got to go for supper in a minute, otherwise my partner will kill me.
Well, and I agree with you. All I want to say is, James, yep, James, I've loved chatting to you. Everyone's loved chatting to you. I haven't answered many questions because I've just been engrossed in our conversation.
It's much more fun to have a conversation than just questions and answers.
James, I'm going to be honest, for hand on heart, I think you're a wonderful person and a great actor, great comedian. I wish I was as good at what I did as what you are, what you do. Hopefully one day I'll be able to buy you a beer or a glass of wine.
That's definitely going to happen, Trevor. We promised that for 2 years now.
I know. It's been, but people don't realize how hard it is to get good people on for a chat because you have schedules and stuff. Anyway, listen, please go and spend the rest of the evening with your partner. I think you're a wonderful guy. We'll chat again, and thank you for giving me some of your time tonight. And everyone's loved it.
Absolute pleasure, Trevor. I've really enjoyed it, and we shall speak soon, I'm sure.
We will. Take care, James, and thank you. Bye.
Take care, Trevor. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Wow, people. James is now gone to spend some quality time with his partner. Thank you all for watching. It's been fantastic. I've loved every minute of it. And I'm now going to go and spend a couple minutes to take this all in because it's been quite overwhelming. I appreciate your support. Thanks, everyone. And do you know what? Thank you to Absolutely Average and the team for having my back. So take care and have a great weekend.